This is Charlie Dobbins, the multifamily attorney with the Multifamily Investing Academy, and surprisingly named the Multifamily Podcast. And I have here the lovely Allie Boone, who's going to share with us her story. But before we do, I told her that I have a story to share with her.
I know there's a story coming.
Okay, because let me just tell you that it is unreal. I interviewed Steve Rosenberg earlier today, and he's a pilot. And then I signed up two new people to my owner forum program. They're both pilots. And
ironically, when I said I was on my way home, I was busy flying. I just literally got out of the plane and scooted home. So you have a theme going on today.
Oh, that's so cool. That's the coolest theme ever. So what is your what were you flying? What were you doing?
I was teaching. I was a new student, so I'm an instructor, and this was a brand new. I think we did his fourth flight, so super basic, which are my favorite. I like to train them how I want them. I like get people from other and show look.
I know.
So and it was like a flawless day flying around Santa Monica and Malibu and all this.
Oh my gosh! Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! Well, listen, one time when I walked into this new flight, new airport to sign out a plane and get registered, certified in a plane, guy asked me, so how long you been flying? And I said, I got my license in 2.5 days. And the guy's like, and you see every head in the whole airport just turn and who's that guy? Well, technically 72 hours. It wasn't all at once. It was spread out over 2 years practically, but it took me 2.5 days is really all it took for me to get my pilot's license. But I have to tell you that okay, so I'm in the process of buying this plane right now, and it's an RV10. So you must know. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Wait until you see a picture.
What's he gonna say? What kind of plane? Oh boy, that was a good one.
Oh man, I tell you, this thing is sweet, and it's got. I'll show you a picture of it sometime. Yeah. So tell us about your work in aerospace. All right, you're out there in California. Okay, you're up there in a nice area in California, Malibu. Who are you working for at that time? Was it one of the big ones?
I was working for Lockheed.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a big one. So I started with them in Atlanta because I went to grad school at Georgia Tech and started with them at their Marietta plant. And then I was super bored one day, and I put in that I was looking at all their job openings, and this really cool sounding one in California was there. So I was like, I'll put in for it. That's hilarious. And I had no plans to move to California, no anything. And sure enough, they called me up, flew me out for an interview. You might be kind of in the same boat as it's hard, engineering and pilot. So I only became an engineer because I knew pilots didn't start out making a lot of money. I was like, well, what makes a lot of money? Engineering. It's got to be the same thing.
Oh my gosh.
That's how I accidentally ended up in engineering, thinking it'll be fine. No, I hated every bit of it, except for spreadsheets. I can still make a mean spreadsheet. But because I had the pilot background, I was already instructing at that point, and they needed kind of that pilot engineer translator. So a lot of my work ended up being translating engineering manuals into actual English, because no one on the planet could understand an engineer's operating handbook at all. So that ended up being my job, but I also did a lot of pilot training. It was cool when I got to California because I ended up in top secret world. I was doing all it was as if I could tell anybody exactly what I was doing, it was the dream job. And, but it wasn't my dream job. So I'm glad I got to experience it all. Super cool. All the things I can never tell people I saw. But
now, how long were you doing that for?
Total just under 5 years.
Okay.
And that whole 5 years, I'll tell you, from the minute I walked in my first cubicle, because I had been flight instructing. So picture my office is the sky and adventure and fun. And here I walk into this underground. It was a mile-long tunnel because it's all the secret stuff. And I'm walking underground, and then I show up in this gray drab cubicle, and I was like, uh-oh. I knew right then. So for 5 years, I was trying to figure my way out of it. And,
okay.
Yeah.
And real estate. Is that what you did?
Real estate was not my intention completely. I knew.
Well, that seems to be your the way you make you do career path decisions anyway, Allie. Yeah. Nothing ever seems to be your intention.
I'm if anything,
why not real estate? You know.
Well, and I know we're going to talk about turnkeys, but my first investment when I accidentally started in real estate was a pre-construction development in Nicaragua. So all I heard was third world country, beach bungalow, third world country, and I was like, I'm in, obviously. Like, if anything will make someone raise an eyebrow.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the way you make decisions. Like you're looking on the like a job board, like, I think I'll choose this one right there,
Like,
and then, hey, Nicaragua, yeah, it sounds fun. Let's take a look at this. God,
I love anything that's going to make for a good story.
Are you married? Are you single or what? Like, you got to be careful when you're start dealing with relationships. Don't do that, okay? Just don't do that. Gosh.
That's why I'm much better at careers and relationships.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Maybe. All right, so this Nicaragua thing, you get okay. So you're down there, and it sounds like you thought this was you weren't like gonna buy it to rent it out or something, or you were.
I was.
Oh, you were. That was the whole purpose, and like kind of like one of these timeshare, or not a timeshare, but more like an Airbnb, where you were like
freehold deeded ownership.
And you had somebody running it for you and renting it out and.
Yep. The problem in this whole equation was that it was pre-construction. And as pretty much every famous developer story, not every developer story, but the famous story is all of a sudden before things got built, the money disappeared.
Really?
So it was actually a total botched investment. And there were big players involved. This was a big deal going on down there. Jack Nicklaus Golf Course Design was going to be the golf course. Wyndham Hotels was partnering on this.
Really?
Like, it was a huge thing. So I didn't feel too bad about myself when it all went belly up.
How much did you lose?
About 40.
Yeah, I've lost more than that.
I was like, if that's the most I lose in real estate, it's a pretty good story. But yeah, as a first investment, it was a little rough. In theory, I should still be getting it back. I've obviously not held my breath on that one. Yeah, but I got some I went to Nicaragua so many times. I love that country. Like, and honestly, this whole thing, and this is what I tell people in real estate too, is like, there's no such thing as a failure if you learn from it and you move past it. Like, that $40,000 lost is the reason, because it was all of those connections and all of that work and all that whatever, that is why I am where I am now. So it bought me my career, it bought me my freedom, it bought me my way out of corporate, it got me into all the other real estate investing, and I had so many trips to Nicaragua.
That's so cool.
So, I mean, easily, I've well made up the 40. It'd be great to get that back, but it's all about perspective on that kind of stuff.
Now, did you go surfing down there?
I tried one time.
Okay.
And I did not try again. It's phenomenal surfing, but it's not for beginners. And I basically was in a washing machine the whole time. So I was like, but I can say I tried.
Yeah, see, I knew that because I watch International House Hunters all the time. It's one of my favorite shows. So mindless dribble. So, okay, so you come back here. Tell us how you did it, how you made the break, how you burnt the ships.
So, it was, so like I said, I was just trying to find my way out of corporate. I didn't know what this was going to be. I had no idea. I had skill sets, but nothing that was really going to give me an exit. So I knew I was like old school, reading books, no internet. It was either going to be start a business or do something in real estate. That's all I really understood conceptually of, like, it's got to be in those two arenas to get out of corporate. And I had actually decided to go the business route after a while of looking into different things and whatever. It's like, I'm going to start a business. I don't know what kind, and not a week or two later, this Nicaragua thing actually showed up in my inbox randomly because I was bored at work and subscribed to everything possible that could distract me. So it gave this Nicaragua advertisement. I was like, oh, that'll entertain me. Long story short, I pursued that. And like I said, the people I met through that, they had also already started into turnkeys. And so I kind of heard about the concept and whatever, but I was so stoked about this Nicaragua stuff. I was like, whatever. Well, they sat me down one day and said, hey, just a heads up, because at this time they were in Memphis and Phoenix were really the big markets. This is like 2010-ish or so. By 2011, when all this was going on, they said, hey, just want to give you a heads up. We haven't told anybody, but we know you're from Atlanta, and Atlanta is about to be the market. Like, we're about to drive into turnkeys there. Like, this is about to like blow people's socks off. And I was like, yeah, heard that before, Nicaragua surfing waves. And but I looked into it, and I really hadn't thought about turnkeys because my perspective of it was that like rental properties by themselves weren't going to get me out of corporate. It wasn't like it could over time, but I wanted out soon. Like, I needed something faster. But I looked into it, went to Atlanta, toured the operations, fell in love. And this was back in the day. So my first turnkey that I bought was this 2-story house, cute yellow house, decent area, for $55,000. And the rent on it was $975. Like, wow. This was stupid. And that's why Atlanta became so big, because these price to rent ratios were absurd. Like, nothing had ever existed before. And so I was like, well, I want that. Like, I like numbers. I want one of those. And it started a spiral. And so what ended up morphing out of the cool thing about the whole thing, from wanting to get out of corporate to actually burning the ships, was it all really happened organically. Like, I didn't set out to leave corporate for real estate. I didn't set out for turnkeys. I didn't set out for anything. It was, I just kind of followed what was coming to me, type of thing. So suddenly turnkeys were in my lap. Well, I was so stinking excited about these turnkeys, I was telling anyone who would listen about them. Well, they started buying them because no one had really heard about this turnkey concept. Like, wait, I can be a real estate investor and not work a whole lot, or like swing hammers, or like fix toilets?
Yeah, okay, so why don't you explain, why don't you define for everybody what exactly you mean by turnkey? And let me just, before you go on, let me just say, for those of you that are, sitting at your computer watching, Allie's website is hipsterinvestments.com. Okay. Yep. So go check that out. It's a cool website, and you can see your properties, you can see your team, you can get her book right there. But this is what we're talking about. So for those of you that are not able to jump on hipsterinvestments.com, Allie, give us the if I use the expression the 411, would you understand that?
I get that one.
Oh, do you do? Okay, fine. Yeah, I didn't Google. I didn't say Google.
Back when 411 was an actual thing, like it was for info before like the Google.
Yeah, it was like Google for people my age. Okay.
So 411 on turnkeys is actually a term to describe the condition of a property, which would mean it's fully rehabbed. Some definitions fluctuate, but tenants are in it. They're paying rent already. And in some cases, property management is already set up to handle the property for you once you own it. So the term originated from the idea of like sticking the key in the door, turning it, and you're making cash flow. So it's kind of like a hands off, you just got to open the door type of thing.
Okay, so this is what you started with. And did you work with some company out of Atlanta that did? Okay, you did. So this is.
So that's turnkey technically refers to the condition of a property, but most often, probably 95% of the time that you hear the term, they're talking about, there's companies out there who, and this is what was happening in Atlanta, is these companies go in, they find all this distressed inventory, they rehab it in bulk, they put tenants in, they have property managers on standby. So these turnkey companies, or turnkey providers, turnkey sellers, whatever you want to call them, they're essentially glorified flippers. They're doing it in bulk, and they're giving them off to investors. So they're doing all of this work for you, and they're selling you the finished product.
Okay.
So you, investor, have the opportunity to just buy the finished product. And I used to call them hands-off rental properties, and I learned very quickly that people were taking that too literally. You still need your brain attached to your shoulders. Like, people will be like, wait, I have to like do something. It's
okay. All right. I got to tell you, just so you know, this is, I'm so glad you said that, because it dovetails perfectly into the conversation I just had with Steve Rosenberg, where he said, if you think you can just walk away and pick up your checks, it just doesn't work that way. No. Thank you for shaking your head no, Allie. You're absolutely right.
And absolutely it can happen that way. But when I tell people, like, even if it's functioning perfectly, that's cool. You just need one eyeball out, because you need to be ready. At some point, if you're property manager, we're still dealing with humans here. Yeah. And if you've been on the earth long enough, you've probably figured out that humans morph. They aren't always reliable. Who's great today may not be great tomorrow. You're still dealing with humans. So you, as the owner of this property, even though everything is in theory taken care of for you, you just need to be ready to make a move. If your property manager starts sucking, fire them and hire a new one. Or if
Yep.
something's not performing, you're the boss and you need to act like a boss, because people were buying these things and they're like, oh, or like if something, a major, I don't know, a dishwasher floods or something, take the initiative to actually call your insurance company. And they're like, what? They just charged me $7,000? Like, you gotta, I mean, when you own real property, you have got to have an eyeball open and be prepared. But some people have bought turnkeys I know of that have literally never had to lift a finger ever.
Yeah.
It's always been perfect, but that's not everybody at all.
No,
And it's,
no.
you know, whatever. So, yeah.
I owned a condo like that, and man, they were the best tenants ever. And you know, they fixed things and never even bothered me with it. They just so appreciated that I gave them that spot. And man, they out of the, you know, over 800 apartments I've owned, they got the prize. They were the best tenants ever.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So okay, so you got your lesson from this company that you bought the property from down in Atlanta. You got to see how they built their business.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that is actually the kind of the crux of how the ships got burned.
Yeah.
Is I started this turnkey investing thing and even the Nicaragua thing with the idea in my head that this was going to be, well, while I still have a W-2 paycheck and I still have a steady paycheck, do something smart with my money.
Yep.
So this was all intended to be a side time thing. Well, so one of the main guys of this, I had a contract in my hand for something, and it turned out he lived in LA also. And we were talking. He said, you know, come on over. I'll meet you on the rooftop pool deck of my high-rise building that I live in, and we'll go over the contract, whatever. So I go over to this rooftop.
Allie, that's called a date. Okay, that's called a date.
It was definitely. Although there was a coffee shop when he met me, and he bought me a coffee, but no, definitely no date.
All right.
Like, nothing sketchy about this entire situation.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Random guy on
how times have changed.
a rooftop. Who knows? I was like, it'll be fine. So I walk up to the rooftop and I meet him. He's super cool, nice guy. And we're sitting at the table, and I still have the visual clear as day in my head. I'm looking at him, and we're talking about the contract. He is kicked back in his chair. He's got like khaki shorts on, flip-flops, no briefcase, laptop, notepad to be seen. It's like the most chill, cool thing, whatever. And as we're talking, I realized he had just come back from some kind of world travel or something. And this is like some random day at some random hour. And so he's talking about this contract, and I'm sitting there thinking, how is this happening? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is the life that I want. And I tell people all the time, my favorite quote in life, and so much of the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, is don't take advice from someone you wouldn't trade shoes with. I wanted to trade shoes with this guy. I was like, I need to know more about what you're doing. You know, like if you ask advice from someone sitting behind a desk and you're trying to figure out your way from out behind the desk, that's not going to work. Like, this guy was living it. And that moment, as I swear I can picture it clear, I'm like, yeah, I can still see him sitting there. And I said, can we not talk about the contract for a second?
Like, what are you doing?
Like,
what?
And I was like, flip-flops? Rooftop pool deck? Hello. You just got done world traveling. You have no schedule. What? And that started it. He actually ended up becoming my business mentor. So he was my real estate mentor. But when I was forming my business, I took every piece of advice from him possible, and it worked. I have the exact same flexibility and freedom that he has. He's been traveling the world now for 4 years. I think he's lived in like 73 countries or so. I don't want that personally, but you know, I can do what I want when I want. I can make my own hours. And so that was the turning point, is finding the person who is living what I was trying to live and take his advice, or her advice in whatever case. But that was how the ships got burned. That was my ticket out.
Okay. So at what point, like you had that one property in Atlanta, how many did you have to own until you were able to feel comfortable? Like, okay, this is it. I don't need to do this.
Oh, I definitely didn't feel comfortable.
Oh, really? Yeah. I know. Isn't it crazy?
Ew, like that's not how I roll.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. The guy with the flip flops, he didn't feel comfortable either, Allie. I mean, you know, I'm sure that, you know, you never know what's going on in another guy's mind.
No,
so,
you really don't.
Yep.
If I've learned nothing else in life, you have no idea what other people are thinking, and quite frankly, you probably don't want to know.
Yeah, that's true.
So when I talked to, I'm such a passive income buff at this point, obviously. When I talk to them about passive investing or passive income or whatever, you can absolutely buy enough rental properties to leave your corporate job. I, however, had the patience level of a flea or something that has zero patience whatsoever. I wanted out so bad. Plus, I had a logistical problem because I ended up in top secret world, like classified world, and in classified locations, I suddenly didn't have a lot of access to unclassified computers to do all this stuff. And so for me, it became a moment of like, do I stick around to try and build my real estate portfolio and be in misery? And I was pretty limited in what all I could do. Or do I just jump ship? Because for me, mine was a combo. I had the real estate properties over here. I had bought more properties by this point. I was trying to grab whatever I could with a mortgage because I knew I was going to lose my W-2 capability. Right. I grabbed everything I could. So it was a mixture of real estate and starting my business. And my business was the priority. And at the time, I mean, in the beginning, I made buckus. But yeah, for me, it was a combo of business and real estate. But for people, not everyone wants to leave their corporate job or be an entrepreneur or whatever. So in that case, you can stick with real estate as the main thing. I did not. So, or you can say screw real estate and I just want to start a business, and then you're probably on the wrong podcast. But
but I'll tell you, it's so interesting. I have a client just like you in that situation where she was. I can never remember whether it's like Xerox or IBM or one of those big, but she's on the government side, and she's all of a sudden she went totally radio silent. I didn't hear from her for months, and all of a sudden she comes back, and I said, "Where you been?" She goes, "Oh, I was, I had this contract. I had to go down into the deep bowels of the building, and everything was locked up. I couldn't talk to anybody for months." And she really, and that was the whole thing. You take that laptop away, we can't do our business.
Yeah, and, that was my problem.
Yep, exactly. So I can totally get that.
There was an unclassified computer, but I only had kind of minimal access. But I was only gone Monday through Friday, so I still had the weekends, and then like occasionally I'd be off on Fridays, and so I still had access to it. But it just wasn't enough. It was like, at what point do I? And this is more of an entrepreneur general conversation, but like, at what point do I jump ship? Because I don't have enough really to sustain myself. But if I keep hanging on, I'm going to be.
You're never going to. You're never going to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I 100% would have been more comfortable had I saved a bigger nest egg, because I was just like,
it's never enough.
Dive into the deep
end. It's never, Allie, it's never enough. It's never enough. That nest egg, the size of that nest egg is so imaginary. It's just, you got to replace the income. Everything is based upon cash flow.
And the bigger the nest egg, in my experience, the longer it's going to take you to get, for me at least, I have to have a fire under my butt. If I'm not like in full panic mode, I'm going to kick back and be like, I'll do it tomorrow. But, so like, the bigger the nest egg, is probably the longer it's going to take for you to get there.
My wife is the same way. She thinks nest eggs are bad. And she spends my nest egg as much as she possibly can. So, yeah. Wondering if that was going to hit you sooner or later.
Somebody else's.
Exactly. Let it go. Go play with stuff. Go play with your dad's nest egg. Leave mine alone. My kids are doing enough damage to my own. So, all right. So let's talk about like how your business operates now, because I'm looking here at this website. You got Kansas City, you got Dayton, you got more Kansas City. It's just, you got a lot of Kansas City, Chicago, St. Louis.
Oh, there must be an uptick on Kansas City inventory right now. We got Chicago, Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City is a great spot. I mean, you got to buy it right, because, I have two clients that do very well multifamily out there in Kansas City. And, but the thing is, those center areas, it's not like the Atlanta. You got lucky with Atlanta, but those central, Midwest towns, slow and steady.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like, so the quick on the model of what I do is, so we talked about the turnkey providers, and I'm kind of a middleman between those people. So you have the investors like buying turnkeys, and you have turnkey providers, and you as the investor can go to a turnkey provider directly and buy from them. But I mean, I'm partially saying this because I'm biased, because I'm obviously the middleman I'm trying to push you towards, but there's a lot of value. A lot of people are like, well, who do I trust? Because that's part of this too, is that when you go to a turnkey provider, yes, in theory, you should get the property as advertised. It should function as advertised, yada, yada, yada. But welcome to real estate. Things don't always work out that way. So,
you you talk about this turnkey, and there have been some companies out. Okay, you know where I'm going.
I'm like, I already know who you're talking about.
Well, I don't want to mention any names because actually, I kind of know a little inside baseball on one of them. And I like the guy. I like the guy. I mean, it's just, but you got to. Why don't you tell? Oh, did you just say same?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been on his podcast, and as a human being, that's cool. And there's all sorts of different rumors about where exactly this all went wrong. But the big thing for turnkey people to know, and I don't know quite enough about the situation to know exactly where all the blame is. So I don't want to say concretely one thing or another, but I can tell you, I put some of this on the buyers because
oh my gosh! Yes, thank you very much. Yep.
Concept is that it is up to you to verify you're getting what's advertised, because it's like, oh, turnkey provider, it'll be great. I'm getting this thing. It's going to look like this. It's going to
right.
No, fool. It's real estate. Like,
no, and some of these people never even went out to see the property. They I took your word for it. Hey, oh my gosh, this is like, I think Steve Rosenberg, the three of us should be on a call sometime because
that'd be so fun.
Oh my God. And he as what we were saying, I said, what I teach my students is don't trust anybody. You got to verify.
There's no reason to trust anybody.
Right.
You never should.
Never.
I'll call one company out by name, and I think they've changed it since, but Roofstock is.
Never heard of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Nope. That's actually encouraging. Most people have heard about turnkeys are like, oh, have you bought through Roofstock? I'm like, oh, Roofstock. So Roofstock is
it's a cool name.
Like my company, they're kind of a middleman.
Okay.
So my company, if any of those properties you see on the website, those are coming from specific turnkey providers that we have vetted, we've toured, either I've bought through them myself, or for some reason we really trust these guys. Roofstock also offers turnkey properties, but it's from wherever they can find them. So there's a little bit of they guarantee it to be a certain level, but it's from so many different sources. To me, it's kind of to me, there's not a lot of incentive for the sellers, the whole thing. But back in the day, and I think they took this off since then, it was actually on their website saying, like, they teach people not to do their own due diligence because they say, we do it for you. And I was like,
oh my, yes.
Even if you're the best, most thorough due diligence on the planet, that is teaching the worst message for anyone getting into real estate investing. You should never trust a human being in this industry because, number one, human beings can suck. And number two, there's very little about a property that you can't verify. Like, other than freak incidents, or sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. But everything else you can verify. Always do your due diligence. Never trust a human being. Like,
I was just thinking, for you to promote your company and to get more clients and people buying through you, it's almost like you should have a little due diligence 101 let us teach you how to do due diligence, and then test us, then check us out, make sure we did the job correctly, and then buy from us.
Well, and I've kind of slacked on videos over the years. I have some blogs and stuff about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so that particular situation that you're talking about, and again, I don't know exactly where things always went wrong, but there was kind of the rumor of people were buying properties that either didn't really exist, half of it was missing. I know there was a horror story that the property burnt down 3 days before closing and nobody knew it. But it's like, and this was actually a famous problem in turnkeys in the 2011-2012 era, because turnkeys were so popular because of those price to rent ratios that were available, which are not available today. International investors were buying these things like crazy, the hedge funds, all these people.
Yes.
Nobody was doing due diligence. And so that became a horror story for turnkeys, is that these international investors are just buying whatever these people say it is, and it never was. And so these investments were tanking, and it's like, you at a minimum have got to ensure that the property exists before you close. So I don't want to knock the buyers from that company, but I would assume in that equation that there was a lack of due diligence. And part of this is on turnkey marketing, because for so long they were advertised as hands off, and you've got to have.
You couldn't lose. You just couldn't lose.
Check it out. Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. This is how you did it. You're acting as the middleman for, so you find these deals. I mean, do you own many of them, or I mean, do you buy some?
I started, as a turnkey buyer first. That's how this all started. Like I said, I started buying my own as a side thing, but I was so stinking excited about it. I was telling everyone. So then, like, my cousin bought one, my mom's friend bought one, and eventually this company I was working with came to me and said, listen, you're sending so many people to us, because it was a great company. The deals were great. I was like, oh, I don't have to do all this work. And they said, if you'll go get your license, we can start paying you referral fees. And I was like, well, that seems like easy, fun.
Yeah.
Still not putting two and two together. But the whole thing ended up picking up so much that's what I left corporate to do, was start Hipster. And we've been essentially a glorified matchmaker, is what I always used to call us. But essentially now, for reasons like, how do you do due diligence? Like, you don't want to ask a direct turnkey provider, how should I do due diligence on the property you're selling me? Like, that's like asking a
multifamily broker, can you tell me the cap rate in this marketplace? Like, oh, you don't know the cap rate? Oh, it's a 4. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wink.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't trust the horse's mouth. Like, no.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of where I come in. So aside from glorified matchmaker, as I've called myself, because I always told people that I would only refer them to companies that either I bought through myself or somehow I'm so closely tied to that I would send my mother there. That's my rule. And I've had a million turnkey providers say, hey, will you refer for us? They've offered to pay me more than I make. And I'm like, I don't, like, I have to know. It's a small thing. But over the years, what I realized, even more than matchmaker, is I end up being people's emotional support dog, because turnkeys are so good for brand new investors, because it's a way in without doing all the hard stuff.
Absolutely.
But then, like, well, what's the due diligence process? What's the buying process? What do I do if things go wrong? And that's where I kind of step in and become the emotional support dog. And you won't get that from a turnkey, most turnkey providers. There's a couple with good customer service, but yeah, so that's kind of where, that's now what Hipster is. And more than anything, even more than turnkeys, more than whatever, I really wanted to be a face and a name in real estate that people felt like they could trust. My policy from the get-go was like, I'm going to be real. I was just telling someone last night, I really don't think you should buy a turnkey. And I even said to him, I was like, I'm the worst salesperson on the planet.
Oh my gosh, so am I.
I think I send more people away from my business. I'm like, really?
I say, hey, can I sign up your program? I don't think my program is right for you. No.
Take dollar bills and like toss it out.
Well, we have a really strict application process, and I don't think you qualify.
Like, I just wanted to be a real voice. I wanted to look different than the stuffy guys in suits who are super intimidating. It's not hard. Exactly.
Well, you did that. You nailed that one.
My face, like, nailed it. So that's why Hipster has its name, because it just looked so, I'm not even a hipster, but it looks so oddly different. People are like, what's that? Like,
the only thing that kind of kills the whole image is the fact that you didn't surf down in Nicaragua. I mean, other than that, you would
send a picture of me with all my gear on before I went out and became.
Okay, that'll work. Yeah, that would work. Yeah, that'd be good.
My cover photo. And in the picture, I'm kind of like, I have this look on my face that looks very disconcerted or disconcerting. So yeah, it's a pretty epic picture, actually.
All right. Well, it's amazing that it's so great to hear that, even as a little girl, you've always wanted to be a turnkey provider. And here you are today living out your dream as a little girl. Your life has just been one perfect path leading right to where you are today. Sorry, we're on podcast. Okay. So, all right, here, Allie, we're gonna finish our podcast with this game. Okay, it's a game, and I've never lost yet. So, and I'm the judge. So here's the name of the game.
I think we can get an audience vote on this one. I'll be like, wait a minute,
go ahead, yeah,
who really won this game?
But you know what? I'll delete those people from my list, and they won't be in my audience anymore. See, I don't care. I don't care.
Right out of that marketing funnel.
I've got so many people. I'm huge. Okay, so here the name of the game is, oh yeah, well, what about this?
Oh,
okay, so that means you have to come up. Yeah, give yourself. I'm going to explain the rules. Yeah, look at this go. So I'm going to explain the rules, and then you may begin. So while I'm explaining it, you can start going back into your memory bank and think of something. So the way it works is, you're going to tell me one of those types of stories about your real estate experiences. and they can good, the bad, the ugly, the kinds that make your skin crawl, your blood boil, about a tenant, about a buyer, about anything like that, and then I will top it.
I feel like you're gonna win this game, though.
I know. I always win this game.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna win this game.
Well, there was one guy though. I think it was Mitch Steven, and he had a good one. He had a good one. That was a tough one to overcome. So, but let's see how you do there, Allie. Let's see.
So it needs to be specific to.
No, you know what? Listen, if you're having trouble,
I have one in my head. I don't know if it's A, appropriate, or B, relevant. But
no. Everything is appropriate in this thing. No matter how inappropriate it is, makes it even more appropriate. So.
Well, I was trying to think, because I was thinking at first, I was like, well, there was when my property inspector called after one of the turnkey inspections and told me about the prostitutes that hit on him in the driveway. But I was like, that's not a big story. But then my brain jumped to in Nicaragua, actually, because after my whole Nicaragua thing, a new development started, and I was actually working with the selling team now because I was, again, so stinking excited about this. So we were hosting investor trips down to Nicaragua.
Oh, wow.
And we went down there one time, and there were two were they brothers or best friends? And one of their wives. So it was these two super rich doctors and their wife. From the minute we picked them up in the van, they were so coked out on cocaine that we were all like, is this going to make the selling process easier or harder? Like, this could go either way. And we thought, well, maybe, they've been drinking in the airport, VIP lounge. We hadn't completely figured out the cocaine thing at this point. We just thought they were sloshed because they were just trashed when we picked them up. But then later, as a couple days went by, we were like, oh, yeah, it's not alcohol. Okay, cool.
Wow.
They were coked out for the entire thing. And we were just, we're like, go with the flow. Cool.
Did you close the deal?
Parties at night. Like, we were just scratching our head of like, we just weren't sure with our normal, selling property tour. They didn't care. They wanted to be off partying. Like, oh, like, did you want to buy one though? Or like, so I feel like that's not even a good one. Yeah.
Like leading up to this.
Do you have any hard drug ones that you can top? Like,
I've got one. Well, I had one where one of my properties was a total drug den, and it had like they sprayed the gang symbols on the wall, and so that is the kiss of death. And I tell people that in the due diligence process says that if you see gang symbols, just kill it. Just walk away. You're done. Don't even think you're going to change it. You're done. And so now I've learned, and one of my students sent me a picture, is that when you look at the micro blinds on a first floor window, and you see that two of the slats just removed. Do you know why? It looks like you know why. Oh, okay. They pass the drugs through that. And so that way the cops don't see who's selling you the drugs. So
also a master base. It's like,
oh yeah. The money exchanges hands outside, and then the drugs come from inside the apartment through the outside, through the little slats, the missing slats. So when you drive by a window and you see missing slats, just the two, be right out, and the two little slats, then you know that's a drug haven.
So let's see. I had to manage cokeheads. You got drug lessons.
Oh, I did. I got tons of drug lessons. Yeah.
I think we're pretty tight at this point. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just kicked your ass, Allie. Oh my gosh.
You just got a lesson. You didn't have to deal with any of them. Like, wait a minute. No, nice try though.
Her name is Allie Boone.
She can manage cokeheads. Yay.
She can manage cokeheads. And her website is hipsterinvestments.com. She's got a cool business model. And I'm so glad that we talked, Allie. And I want to get this out to all of my list. I have millions. I 10x, I 100x everything. By the way, I don't even deal with those little. I don't even deal with exactly. I don't deal with those little guys. And so so it's great to have you on my show, Allie. You're a sweetheart, and I'm so glad for your success. I love hearing about people who are living the life that they want to live. Good for you. And and you're a pilot. Oh my gosh. This girl's got it all. This girl's got it all.
Well,
All
hey,
right, Allie.
speaking of all your like 10 million listeners,
Yeah.
I set something up for you guys. So if you want to learn more about turnkeys, I wrote a turnkey ebook. It's a few years old, but it kind of goes through the whole gamut of it. Like, who are the players in the game? What are these properties? Buying process, due diligence stuff. And normally I charge for it, but I have set up a link where you guys specifically can get it free.
Oh,
So,
wait, is it this 101 book?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. It's right here on our website. Turnkey Rental ebook 101.
Well,
Here's what you'll get.
It's there, but don't go to that. Well, so go to hipsterinvestments.com/multifamily investing. So it's specific to you guys for watching this podcast. No dash or anything in so just multifamily investing, one word. And you'll get a link to download it for free because on the website you have to pay for it. So you'll get a link to download it for free. There's links where you can contact me. I love when just reach out and say hi. Like, I don't even care if you want a turnkey or not. I actually have a book about to come out. We're finishing it up now, and it's called Not Your How-To Guide to Real Estate Investing. Although by the time you even watch this, maybe it will be out. So if that comes out, you'll get a link for that, and I'll offer some cool, rad discount on that. But for now, just grab the ebook. And if you're interested in turnkeys, reach out.
And we'll put those links down in our show notes, too, so everybody can find it. Cool.
Perfect.
Her name's Allie Boone. She's awesome. Thanks, Allie. Good talking with you. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, for sure.